That's enough of that. Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. I know there was a bit of a gap this time, but I have been working on other projects. And as for today's video, we have Dungeons & Crystals, an action RPG tower defense hybrid in a similar style to Dungeon Defenders, and if you're familiar with that series, you're going to be seeing why I made that comparison the further we go. Anyways, let's get to it.
Ah, there you are. Welcome to Dungeons & Crystals. This is the Tavern. Every time you return from an adventure, you will find yourself here. Before we begin your first mission, I will teach you all that you need to know to survive the dungeons. First, let's see if you can kill one of the dummies. Great job. You've got some talent, I'll tell you that. You can always come back to the training area to practice more. This is your crystal. You must defend it at all costs. When you're close to the crystal, it will heal you. This is what a summoner looks like. Or close enough. Yes, I think the tavern keeper was a bit drunk when he built this. Anyways, if you see something that looks approximately like this, it is a summoner. And keep your distance because the summoner spawns enemies. Well, that covers most everything. I'm sure you'll pick up everything else you need on the fly. Whenever you feel ready, press the touchpad to start your first mission. Fare thee well.
And off we go. You can fight the other dummies, but there's no real reason for doing so. I'm gonna do it just to demonstrate. And... whatever. There's no real reason to stick around here. This game doesn't really have a store like Dungeon Defenders, at least yet. Now here we have two characters, the Knight and the Berserker. The Berserker is not available yet. He has a couple of different abilities, including his turret being a cannon instead of the spikes that the Knight has. Now I said earlier that this was an action RPG tower defense hybrid. However, here though you can't really drop any towers or defenses of any kind. It's just you fighting the horde by yourself. Now, enemies in this game, as you may have noticed, drop mana. And in this level you can't actually use the mana because there aren't any designated areas for building defenses. I'll get to that later. For now I want to talk about the enemy's AI. The enemy's AI is obviously designed to run up and attack you if you're close enough, and if you're not close enough they will attack the crystal. The idea obviously being that you'll distract them from hitting the crystal in order to prevent it from taking damage. Because even though you can heal, the crystal cannot, at least as far as I know. There aren't too many issues I noticed with the enemy's AI, however sometimes they'll just stand around doing nothing like the guy I just killed, and sometimes they will run up and attack the crystal no matter how much you smack them across the face. That isn't too much of an issue with regular enemies, though it can become quite the issue with bosses, as they'll either stand around and just let you hit them, or they'll go for the crystal and they'll be able to destroy it faster than you can kill them. Another issue I have here is the displaying of the enemy's health. Now, I can see my own health and I can see the crystal's health because it's in a lit area. However, the enemy's health I can't really make out because of the dark background with the black numbers on it. Maybe if the text display, or at least I assume that's what's displaying the enemy's health, were changed to a different color, maybe white, then I'd be able to see the enemy's health much more easily. And remember what I said earlier about issues with the enemy's AI? Come on, come on, come on! Look at me, look at me, look at me, come look at me! Ah! That was from the first time that I fought the boss of this level. Now, here he is again. He's, really powerful, but also really slow. And he has a fair amount of health. The key is to dodge his attacks by holding R1 to sprint, and just continually attacking him so he doesn't get close enough to the crystal and start hitting it. Just gonna keep smacking him. Nope. His attacks are reasonably well telegraphed, so you should be able to dodge them. Come on. Nope. No, you don't. Not letting you go for the crystal again. Almost. There we go. And here we are back at the tavern. However, like I said before, there isn't really much reason to stick around here. Maybe in the final game we'll be able to get some advice from the tavern keep about the next level, or get a map of it on the table here. However, as it stands, there's not much you can do here once you're back at the tavern. I mean, you can kill the dummies again, but that's basically it. Anyways, let's get to level 2, the last level in the demo. The first thing you'll notice here is that this map is much larger. It has 2 summoners and chests that you're going to need to use for mana, and trust me, you're going to want to use that. Now there is one more chest in this level, and that is the one down here. And just like Dungeon Defenders, again, they'll refill in between waves. Now as you'll see as I bring up the display here, this is your display for building traps, or defenses. I'm just going to drop a spike trap here and here. And I've got 120 more mana, just enough for one more spike trap here. I'm putting him here because this is usually the area where I sort of dance around with them and try to kill them. One thing I do want to showcase is the fact that in this level, you can have enemies coming out of both summoners at the same time. And this leads to a more interesting situation. You can go for one enemy, but if you don't get to the other in time, it will attack the crystal. This becomes a problem because, unlike Dungeon Defenders, you can't really depend on your defenses to kill the enemies before they get to the crystal. You do have to deal with a lot of the threats yourself. And that's going to be true no matter how much mana you actually have to put in. Just gotta jump between them, and hope that you can take their attention long enough so they don't attack the crystal. Back to build phase, drop another spike trap. And let's move on. One thing of note is that you really should make the time to heal yourself, because if you die, instead of having to wait until you come back, you will flat out just lose the level straight then and there. Build phase time. However, in this game you only have 30 seconds to grab the mana from the traps and build your defenses. Now, in this particular situation, it is kind of annoying with the fact that you need to run down the stairs and get to the other chest in order to build your defenses when you're on a time limit. Just gonna get it all here, and because I have enough mana, I'm gonna place right over here. I'm gonna drop a flame trap. They have a shorter range, but they do more damage than the spike traps. But be careful, because the bad guys won't stay in front of them for very long. Almost. Okay. Back to just one again. I don't have much else to say about the game, really, but I do want to take this time to touch on the boss of the demo. And that is this guy. Oh! He is much more interesting than the previous boss because he has several different attacks, including a ranged attack that can actually hit the crystal right from the beginning, if you don't get him pointed in the correct direction. I'm gonna see if I can get the flame trap to hit him. When's he gonna come around? Oh! And like I said, he will hit the crystal no matter where he is if he uses that attack. He's probably going to make it up to this area no matter what you do to him. There's basically no way to deal enough damage to kill him before he gets to the crystal. And so you just have to play Distractor. And he does a lot of damage. I have died to him before, and that was how I lost the level previously. However, he does have the strongest case of the flaws in the enemy AI, in that right here he's just standing around and I could just let that spike trap kill him, as he's not going to go for me or the crystal if I just let him stand around like that. I have actually killed him before using that method. But enough waiting, I'm just gonna kill you. And there we go! So that is Dungeons and Crystals, as it currently is. Pros. It's clear what this game is trying to emulate, and it does that very well. It's definitely one of the more polished games I've seen in Dreams, as there isn't really much margin for error or exploitation beyond the enemy AI. Issues aside, there were a few other minor annoyances like the time limit on the build phase combined with the inconveniently placed chest or the enemy health display. Overall, though, this is a solid and, in my book, underrated game. It's a clever homage to the series that inspired it, but there is still enough to set it apart. I'm glad I have this to keep me occupied until Dungeon Defenders Awakened comes to the PS4. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the Dreamiverse.